reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, text number 11, and the chapter is entitled The Birth of Lord Shri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nastapraeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistuki. Thank you all so much for being here this morning. Let me read the Sanskrit verse. Savishmayot pula vilochano harim sutam vilokyana kadundubi tada Krishna vatarot savasambhramos prasan muda dvijebhyo yutam apluto gavam. I'll read it a couple more times. And thank you so much.
Rukmini Devi Prabhu, today's verse is 10 through 20. Is that right? Is that
10,
what's on your 10 through 20?
Oh my goodness. I was prepared for a totally different verse.
It's birth of
10,
Krishna. Would you like me to read 10 through 20? I can do that.
10, 3, 20.
Yeah, that's the verse.
Okay. Well, I prepared for another verse. Are you willing to hear a class prepared for another verse?
No, I can read the verse. Yeah.
Oh, I can read it. I have it here. Should I just read the English? Or should I read the Sanskrit? Okay.
It's up to you, Rukmini Devi Prabhu. It's up to you.
Okay, my total mistake. Excuse me, everyone, for preparing for the wrong verse. Swatam trilokastitaye swam mayaya vibhasi suklam kaluvarnam atmanaha sargaya raktam rajaso pabrimhitam krishnam chavarnam tamasa janatyaye. I'll read it a couple more times. I'll read it one more time since I took time on the other verse. Satam trilokastitaye swamayaya vibhashi suklam kaluvarnamatmanaha sargayuraktam rajaso pabrimhitam krishnam chavarnam tamasa janataye. I'll read the word for word translation. Satam, your lordship, who are the same person, the transcendence. Trilokastitaye, to maintain the three worlds, the upper and middle and lower planetary systems. Samayaya, by your personal energy. Atmamayaya. Bibharti, assume. Suklam, the white form of Vishnu in goodness. Kalu, as well as. Varnam, color. Atmanaha, of the same category as you, Vishnu Tattva. Sargaya, for the creation of the entire world. Raktam, the reddish color of Rajaguna. Rajasa, with the quality of passion. Upabrimhitam, being charged. Krishnam cha, and the quality of darkness. Varnam, the color. Tamasa, which is surrounded by ignorance. Jana atyaye, for the ultimate destruction of the entire creation. Translation. My Lord, your form is transcendental to the three material modes, yet for the maintenance of the three worlds, you assume the white color of Vishnu in goodness. For creation, which is surrounded by the quality of passion, you appear reddish, and at the end, when there is a need for annihilation, which is surrounded by ignorance, you appear blackish. Purport. Vasudeva prayed to the Lord, "You are called Suklam." This is the purport by His Divine Grace. Actually, yes, by Srila Prabhupada. Suklam, or whiteness, is the symbolic representation of the absolute truth because it is unaffected by the material qualities. Lord Brahma is called Rakta, or red, because Brahma represents the qualities of passion for creation. Darkness is entrusted to Lord Shiva because he annihilates the cosmos. The creation, annihilation, and maintenance of this cosmic manifestation are conducted by your potencies, yet you are always unaffected by those qualities. As confirmed in the Vedas, Harya Hi Nirguna Sakshat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always free from all material qualities. It is also said that the qualities of passion and ignorance are non-existent in the person of the Supreme Lord. In this verse, the three colors are mentioned, Sukla, Rakta, and Krishna, are not to be understood literally in terms of what we experience with our senses, but rather as representatives of Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. After all, sometimes we see that a duck is white, although it is in the Tamagun, the mode of ignorance, illustrating the logic called Vakandanaya. The duck is such a fool that it runs after the testicles of a bull, thinking them to be a hanging fruit that can be taken when it drops. Thus, the duck is always in darkness. Vyasadeva, however, the compiler of the Vedic literature, is blackish, but this does not mean that he is in Tamagun. Rather, he is in the highest position of Sattvagun, beyond the material modes of nature. Sometimes these colors, Sukla, Rakta, Tata, Pita, are used to designate the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Lord Chiradakshai Vishnu is celebrated as possessing a blackish color. Lord Shiva is whitish and Lord Brahma is reddish. But according to Srila Sanatana Goswami in the Vaishnav Tosani Tika, this exhibition of colors is not what is referred to here. The real understanding of Shukla, Rakta, and Krishna is as follows. The Lord is always transcendental, but for the sake of creation, he assumes the color Rakta as Lord Brahma. Again, sometimes the Lord becomes angry, as he says in Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Tadaham dvisata kruran samsareshu naradamam Chipami ajasram asubam asurishu eva yonisu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. To destroy the demons, the Lord becomes angry, and therefore he assumes the form of Lord Shiva. In summary, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always beyond the material qualities, and we should not be misled into thinking otherwise simply because of sense perception. One must understand the position of the Lord through the authorities or Mahajanas, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:328. Ete chamsa kala punsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Let me chant some prayers. Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangolam Gayate Girim Yakripastamahang Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. So thank you all once again for inviting me. Welcome to all of you. And I have to apologize to all of you because I prepared for the wrong verse. So I think what I'll do is say a few words about this correct verse. And maybe if it's all right with all of you, I'll go back to speaking about the verse I prepared for. I was thinking that Lord Chaitanya spoke for many, many days about the Atmarama verse. He spoke to different people at different times and gave different explanations. And then, of course, Srila Prabhupada's guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, once spoke for a whole month, I believe it was, on the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So maybe you'll all bear with me and I can also go back and speak about the verse I prepared for. But just about this verse, about the three colors, it's interesting. It can so easily be misunderstood. And Prabhupada gives quite a funny explanation about the white color in this purport, that a duck is white, but is in the mode of ignorance. And this really quite hilarious example. I don't know if you all have heard this before, that a duck is so foolish. You never heard that, Andrea? Andrea's shaking her head no. That, let me see, there's some things in the chat here. Yeah, happy to hear whatever you offered, Jumanajaya. Well, thank you so much. That's encouraging. Yes. So this quite funny example, this white duck who's in the mode of ignorance chases after a bull who has his testicles hanging down between his back legs. And the duck is thinking that some delicious fish is going to be dropping down for me to eat at any moment. So he's chasing after this bull. So that's really a symptom of the mode of ignorance, isn't it? And then Vyasadeva, who's the author of all Vedic literatures, is blackish. And of course, Krishna is blackish. And the fact is, we can also see in our world, so many wise people are blackish. But that's not what's being referred to here. These colors are representative of different modes of nature. And then at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes Krishna becomes angry. So I think it's also important to understand, sometimes people misunderstand that as well, that when they see Krishna killing demons or becoming what appears to be angry, that Krishna is not angry like we are. His anger is meant for bringing down the mischievous people, just as his mercy is meant for uplifting the devotees. So it's easy to misunderstand from our own colored perspective. Like we're talking about colors here. So sometimes we put on these different colored glasses, rose-colored glasses or other colored glasses, and we misunderstand according to our modes of nature, taking the Supreme to be like one of us, right? So these are a few thoughts on this correct verse, but if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to read the English of text number 11, which is the verse I, please forgive me, mistakenly prepared for. I see Aikiko. Hello, Aikiko and Pat. So many of my friends are here. So please say a little prayer for me. Gail is here. Thank you all so much. And Isabel and Hey Mungi. Thank you so much. So here's the verse, text number 11. When Vasudeva saw his extraordinary son, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them among the Brahmanas as a transcendental festival. So let's see, should I leave? I think I'll read the purport. It's not very long, but the purport is really on target with the verse. So again, please bear with me. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has analyzed the wonder of Vasudeva upon seeing his extraordinary child. Vasudeva was shivering with wonder to see a newborn child decorated so nicely with valuable garments and gems. He could immediately understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had appeared not as an ordinary child, but in his original fully decorated four-handed form. The first wonder was that the Lord was not afraid to appear within the prison house of Kamsa. He's not angry and he is also not afraid, right? Where Vasudeva and Devaki were interned. Second, although the Lord, the Supreme Transcendence, is all-pervading, he had appeared from the womb of Devaki. The third point of wonder, therefore, was that a child could take birth from the womb so nicely decorated. Fourth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was Vasudeva's worshipable deity, yet had taken birth as his son. For all these reasons, Vasudeva was transcendentally jubilant, and he wanted to perform a festival as Kshatriyas do to celebrate the birth of a child. But because of his imprisonment, he wasn't able to do it externally. Excuse me. And therefore, he performed the festival within his mind. This was just as good. If one cannot externally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can serve the Lord within one's mind. Since the activities of the mind are as good as those of the other senses, this is called the non-dual or absolute situation, Advaya Gyan. People generally perform ritualistic ceremonies for the birth of a child. Why then should Vasudeva not have performed such a ceremony when the Supreme Lord appeared as his son? So thank you all. And I wanted to comment on Vasudeva's consciousness here. I wanted to look at this character of Vasudeva. Hello, Henry, also. And hello, Vrajavihari Prabhu. And did I say Michelle? Michelle, thank you for joining. So yeah, it's really interesting in this verse that he's, the character of Vasudeva is that he's overwhelmed with the sense of wonder, which is a symptom of the state of pure goodness, actually. And the word wonder is used between the verse itself and the purport. The word wonder is used 5 times, and the word jubilant is used twice. So Vasudeva, the word Vasudeva means the state of pure goodness, and it refers to the father of Krishna. And Vasudeva is a name for Krishna, which means one who appears from this state of pure goodness. So if we want Krishna to appear in our hearts, it would behoove us to try to, as Prabhupada says so often, mold our lives in such a way that we can cultivate this state of pure goodness in our hearts. What does pure goodness mean? It means not compromised or not contaminated by the 3 modes of material nature. Goodness, material goodness, which can have some pride in it, and other contaminations, and then passion, and then ignorance, like the duck, right? So Vasudeva, one word is used in the Sanskrit verse, this Sanskrit verse, anukadambabi, anukadundubi. So that means many drums, kettle drums, and that's a name for Vasudeva. because when he was born, all these heavenly drums started playing from the heavenly planets to celebrate his birth, which is really, really a beautiful thing. Actually, since Braj Bihari is here, I'll have to say that his wife, also there were drums beating when she appeared in this world. Her father was a military general and he was posted in Africa. And there were drums beating at the time when she was born over in Ireland. And she was named Kate. And those drums were beating. And her father said, "Kate, I know you're great." So that's kind of nice that those drums were beating to celebrate Kate, I know you're great. Something like that. So that's really beautiful that those drums are there to celebrate the appearance of an auspicious personality. And yet here we see he's so auspicious and so celebrated, but here he is, he's bound in a prison of Kamsa. He's chained by his hands and his foot. Why? Because there was this prediction that Kamsa's eternal enemy, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, would appear as the 8th child of Vasudeva and Devaki. So here he's in the prison, but yet he's jubilant and he's shivering with a sense of wonder. What does that say to us, you know? We could also be imprisoned in so many material circumstances of suffering or illness or loss. And maybe we can take Vasudeva as an example for in our own lives also, that these chains and this prison don't seem to be an obstacle to Vasudev's sense of wonder. He's so jubilant because Krishna has appeared as his son, and he knows that all material obstacles can be conquered by just remembering Krishna. So the first wonder that's described here in the purport is that Krishna was not afraid. He wasn't intimidated by Kamsa to appear in Krishna's prison, right? He could break out of any prison if he felt like it, and he can appear anywhere he feels like it. So sometimes we think, well, how could Krishna do this? Or how could Krishna do that? Or how could Krishna possibly save me in my really suffering condition? But Krishna, anything is possible and everything is possible for the Supreme Lord Krishna. And this is a great wonder, isn't it? And we can let that wonder come into our hearts. So then the second wonder is that the Lord is all pervading, and still he appears to appear from the womb of Devaki. Actually, he was coming from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, from the heart of Vasudeva to the heart of Devaki, from his mind, from his heart. And then the third wonder is that he appeared all decorated. So have any of you ever had a baby? And it would be really hard to have a baby with like a pointy, prickly crown, coming out when he's being born. So that's another wonder, that he has this pointy, prickly crown and all these weapons. He has a club and he has a chakra, which is also very pointy. He has a lotus flower, and then he has a conch shell. So all these things, he's appeared with all of these decorated many jewels, the Kostaba jewel, and no earthly child is ever born like that. And the fourth wonder is that Vasudeva, that his own worshipable deity, the Supreme Lord Vishnu, has taken birth as his own son. How overwhelming is that? So even earthly moms, if they have a baby who's very beautiful, they become overwhelmed with gratitude and joy. So it's impossible to conceive of the great joy of Vasudeva and Devaki at this moment. He's completely jubilant. And he wants to celebrate a festival. He wants to give in charity. So yes, in America, when a baby's born, and I don't know if they still do this anymore, the father would be pacing outside in the waiting room. These days, the father is assisting the birth right there with the mom. which is nice. But in previous days, the father would be pacing back and forth in the waiting room of the hospital. And when he hears that a healthy baby is born, then he would give out cigars to all of his friends. So that's kind of, I guess you could say that's like a perverted reflection. But here Vasudeva, he's a king, but he's a king who's been imprisoned, right? But he wants to give in charity. The king's one of the traits or of the Kshatriyas or the kingly class, the royal class, even the ones who were demoniac, like Jarasandha. We were just reading about Jarasandha in our Krishna book discussion group on Wednesday nights. So even Jarasandha, who was really quite evil, unprecedentedly evil, he was so generous and charitable to the Brahmin class, to the holy people, to the point of when Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima came to his royal palace disguised as Brahmanas. He could tell they weren't really Brahmanas. They had all big muscles and booming voices and like a big indentation in their shoulder from carrying a bow. He could tell they weren't really Brahmins. They were really kings. But still, he agreed to give them charity in any case. And the charity that they were begging was that they wanted to fight a duel with him. Yes. And just to say one more thing about that incident, he considered Krishna to be so unqualified. He was so proud. He considered Krishna to be so unqualified and such a coward because he ran away from the battlefield once after he defeated Jarasandha 17 times. And then he considered Arjuna to be weak and inferior to him because he was a bit younger. So he considered Bhima to be qualified to fight a duel with him. But in any case, he was charitable, and that's what we're talking about here. So a really important point. So in the verse, it describes that Vasudeva gave in charity thousands of cows in his mind. He collected and then distributed thousands of cows to give to the holy Brahmins in charity. But what's really important, I think, for us is that Prabhupada says that if one cannot externally serve Krishna with thousands of cows or thousands of anything, that Krishna's service is wholly and completely spiritual. And it's called Advaya Gyan, which means it's non-dual, which means there's no separation as we see in the material realm. There's no difference between the internal and external as far as Krishna is concerned. For us, it may appear to be, wow, if I don't have thousands of cows, or if I don't have 1,000 of anything, what could I, 1,000 flowers or 1,000 fruits? How could I possibly serve Krishna? But the fact is that serving Krishna is completely spiritual, and we can do it just as effectively in our minds as externally. No difference between the internal and the external. So that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's a beautiful thing to bring us to a sense of wonder as well. There's one chapter in Krishna book called Wonderful Krishna, 1,000 thoughts. Yeah, Bhima says with 1,000 thoughts. That's really beautiful. Thank you so much. So yeah, this sense of wonder, this wonderful Krishna can be worshipped with a sense of wonder. Yes, once Prabhupada named those little super sweet sweets, he named them Simply Wonderful. And he said, these sweets are simply wonderful. And Krishna, your Krishna is simply wonderful. Our Krishna is simply wonderful. And you are wonderful. So Prabhupada was also sometimes or actually all the time, and exhibiting it in different ways with this beautiful sense of wonder. So I wanted to really focus on this idea of a sense of wonder, because a sense of wonder is one of the facets of gratitude. Yes, how wonderful is Krishna, Andrea is saying. So having a sense of wonder is a very childlike quality. Sometimes you see a child can be just walking down the street and see a bug or see a dandelion and just be overwhelmed with this beautiful sense of wonder. Yesterday, I was taking a japa walk by a lake near our house, and there was a little Chinese family, a father and mother and two little daughters, and they had a bit of bread. I don't think they're really supposed to be feeding the wild ducks, but they were. They were feeding the ducks and the frogs and the geese, and the little girls were calling out, "Hey, ducks, ducky, ducky, ducky." And it was so cute. So, I just walk by the ducks. I don't really think much of them. The geese can be quite aggressive sometimes. I try to avoid them. And I try to avoid the dogs that look a bit mean also. But here's these children, and they're calling out, "Ducky, ducky, ducky." And so we were hearing that ducks are in the mode of ignorance, but they weren't seeing that mode of ignorance. They were just having this sense of wonder at God's creation. Maybe they weren't thinking so much about God, but thinking more about the joy of the ducks. So, cute Giriraj, you mean? Yes, Andrea, to everyone. Very cute Giriraj. Yes, that's Adi's Giri. He's so cute. And we can have a sense of wonder looking at that sweet Giriraj also with his big eyes. But William Blake said, the great poet William Blake said that a grateful heart is heaven itself. And I would say a grateful mind is going in the direction of a spiritual mind as well. So we're seeing here in the character of Vasudeva, he's not really in that prison. He's not really in chains. He's not really in a state of fear of the evil Kamsa. He's in a state of wonder. And that's a characteristic of his pure heart. So he's really not barred. Sometimes someone who's not even in a prison at all may be imprisoned by their own mind or their own anger or their own jealousy or so many other lower traits, right? But Vasudeva, his mind and his attention are absorbed in Krishna, and he's wrapped in gratitude. He's overwhelmed with jubilation and this sense of wonder. In the Bible, in Proverbs, it says that it says that one who has a grateful heart sits at a continuous feast. So I think that's really, really beautiful. So if we want to feel so fulfilled, if we want to feel so filled up and never famished, then we can look to this quality of gratitude. So Ananda Vihari, can you put up that screen share? I want to show you something very beautiful that I find very helpful. It's called a gratitude ladder that helps us chart our feelings. Ananda Bihari, you said that you would be able to post that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you see it?
It's a little small. Can you make it bigger? Is there any? Oh, can it be even bigger? Can you all see that? Okay, that's too big now. Make it smaller, please. And maybe okay, let's see. Can you put the screen over to the left where we see the other part of it? Over to the left. Okay. Yeah, to the left, further left, further left, further left. Okay. So, yeah. So this is kind of explaining the ladder a bit. So it explains that you see the lower states that I can so often dwell in. And then in the middle, there's a mode of inquiry, which is curiosity, being interested. That's also a childlike quality, right? And then coming up to these higher states of consciousness. So, okay. So let's see. Can you move it over to the right a little bit again? Okay. And can you make it a little bit bigger? Further left, further left. Oh, wait. Okay, there's more on the right. Go to the right. Let's look at what's on the right. Okay, the practice of gratitude. The more you practice, the more you get back. Better relationships, better able to handle obstacles like a prison or chains or Kamsa, someone like Kamsa. Improve your energy levels and try to move up move you up the mood ladder. So here's the steps: to be more aware of your own mood and attitude. The second one, to actively practice gratitude. The third one, to not sink to the other person's level, and the world will look different and better. Okay, let's, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, can you go back to the middle? Every day we have, we encounter people that might, maybe they don't even intend to, but maybe just by their own mental state tend to bring us down. So I love this gratitude ladder, and I really wanted to share it with all of you. Yeah, so at the very bottom is kind of the depressive state, right? Where we can be. And then coming up to be hostile, or have a hostile or angry attitude. And then maybe a little less negative, to be just highly stressed. And the body language shows this. You know, sometimes someone has their arms crossed against their chest. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. Or sometimes kids do that. Or sometimes you see someone walk into the temple with a loud kirtan, they put their fingers in their ears, highly stressed. And then what about acting with self-righteousness? That's a symptom of neophyte devotion. When someone is very self-righteous or thinking, my way of seeing things is the only way of seeing things. Do we ever drop into that kind of consciousness? And then coming one step up, judging and blaming tactics, another symptom of someone who's a real beginner, not only in spiritual life, but in material life, judging and blaming someone who sees or thinks or says something different from the way I'm thinking. And then just a general anxiety or anxiousness and fear being prevalent in our minds or consciousness. Then what about being defensive? These are the four material propensities: eating, sleeping. We have to do these things to live, right? Mating. Some people have to do that. Some people don't. And then, but defending. Generally in material consciousness, all of us do that. Someone accuses us of something, or we make a mistake or an offense, and we try to defend ourselves and attack other people verbally or mentally. So that defensiveness. And then coming up one step, irritation is increasing. Sometimes I find that I'm in this irritated state when Anuttama Prabhu does something or asks me to do something that I don't want to do, or Gauravani sometimes can irritate me. Or, yeah, so do you ever see this in yourself? Just that kind of angst or irritation. Why this? Why that? Why isn't it just the way I like things to be? Irritation. So that's not as bad as the other lower steps. But then just being easily frustrated, right? Do you ever see this in yourself? But then this transitional state, which I think is really, really interesting, to be curious. That's a bit of a slogan that we can carry around in our day. To be curious. How are other people thinking about this thing in my office or in my home? Or what do my kids have to share? Or someone in my life, what is there that they have to share? Be curious, not just be stuck in irritation. That why do I have to deal with this right now? So then coming up, staying flexible and being adaptive and practicing patience, right? Patience is not just waiting for something to happen, but it's a state of consciousness while we're waiting for something to happen, seeking to understand, right? As it's said in that beautiful peace statement, seeking to understand, not seeking to be understood so much. Maintaining a sense of humor. Srila Prabhupada was always so humorous. Sometimes someone told us once that, there should be no humor in Krishna consciousness because Srila Prabhupada was always very serious. Well, that is a total misunderstanding of the character of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was always ready with a light perspective. Even in the purport we read this morning, that was quite funny about the duck following after the bull, trying to eat his testicles, right? Well, that's a Bengali saying, or a saying from the Nyaya logic. But yeah, to maintain a sense of humor, it means to not take ourselves so seriously. This is so important on the path of bhakti, to not take ourselves too seriously. Being appreciative is one of the symptoms of gratitude. To be a deep listener, to be a good listener, to study the art of deep listening. The Dalai Lama said that when we talk, we only say things we already know, but when we listen, we can learn something new. So staying positive and enthusiastic, intelligent endeavor coupled with enthusiasm, yes. And then looking for resources and support for what I need to do in my life, that I can't just do this alone. Look to be innovative and inspiring and inspired, right? Staying equipoised, this is a symptom of the mode of goodness. And then coming up to grateful. So for me, I think this gratitude ladder is a great meditation, and I find it very helpful to try to be observing my moods. Can I try to be dwelling in this grateful place, staying equipoised, being curious about others' points of view, looking for support, being enthusiastic, appreciative, having a sense of humor, practicing patience, and staying flexible and curious. So I hope you'll also find this helpful, just helping us to observe, because it said if we can name our feelings, we can also tame our mind, right? So am I keeping my eyes and my heart open to receive gifts that have already come to me, and maybe new ones that I don't even know about, that are maybe on the way to me today or tomorrow? So where am I on this ladder? And am I living in a place of forgetfulness of Krishna's unlimited gifts to me? Yeah. So, yeah. So, in his unceasing service to Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, I wanted to say, he would make a plan. Actually, he would make many plans at once. Just like he would, just like if you were sticking different irons in a fire. Say you had lots of cold iron bars and you were sticking them in a fire to heat them up. So Srila Prabhupada was like that. He was always having so many different irons in the fire. And then whichever one became hottest, he would pull that one out. Like, okay, now it's time to go to Mumbai. Or no, now it's time to go to Mombasa or somewhere else, right? So he would say, he would have all these irons in the fire, and then he would, like as plans, right? And then he would say, all right, now let us see what is Krishna's desire. So that was a really beautiful consciousness. And I think that's good for us, not to just be in a state of forgetfulness or in a robotic state in our lives, but to actually make plans. How can I serve Krishna better? How can I love Krishna more? And then kind of lean back and think, yes, now let us see what is Krishna's desire, because maybe my plan will not be aligned with Krishna's plan, right? What will Krishna sanction? What will Krishna allow and bless to move forward today? So I think it's very important in our lives to look closely at this place of gratitude, because gratitude is a place of reciprocation between Krishna and ourselves, and between ourselves and others. And it's a place of gaining this higher taste of Krishna consciousness and beginning to feel the loving reciprocation of Krishna and his devotees. Because if we're just going through our lives in a blind and robotic way, we may miss so many hints of reciprocation that Krishna is giving us. And we may not notice some of the beautiful gifts of Krishna that are coming across my path today. So here we see Vasudeva. He's overwhelmed with the state of wonder, 5 times mentioned in the verse and purport. And I wanted to say that it's also said that gratitude is the highest form of thought. And I like this one also, that gratitude is happiness that's been doubled by wonder. Michelle has something interesting in the chat. Let's see. Michelle always has something introspective. When the lower chakras are balanced, not too open or too closed, we're able to be open and view the world through the heart. As Srimad Bhagavatam, she's quoting Srimad Bhagavatam, the place where Vishnu enters the body, where dovetail to Krishna in the heart, we can only rise in gratitude and service. How beautiful. Thank you, Michelle. I'm always grateful to Michelle for her beautiful introspective thoughts. So yeah, gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. So it's our choice, right? We have free choice. We have free choice where we want to dwell. Here's a nice quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, I believe I always call Bhakti Yoga the yoga of gratitude. And here's a nice quote. Because Bhakti is, Prabhupada always translates Bhakti as devotional service. So it's active. It's a cultivation. It's not stagnant or stale. So it's an active cultivation of the heart. And it's a cultivation of practicing gratitude, if we can try to dwell in that place. Here's a nice quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 5th chapter, 49th verse. When human society is grateful to the Lord for all his gifts for the maintenance of the living entities, then there is certainly no scarcity or want in society. How about that? When we're grateful, we're not seeing a want or a scarcity. But when men or women are unaware of the intrinsic value of such gifts from the Lord, surely they are in want. The practice of bhakti yoga is one of cultivating gratitude. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada in another place, he says, this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 16th chapter, verses 26 to 30. Srila Prabhupada says, only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. So in one sense, it's good to be, we should be a fool before our spiritual master, right? But not this kind of a fool, not this kind of an ungrateful fool, right? So it says, only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. The Lord, however, does not require benefit from anyone besides himself because he is full in himself. Still, he feels benefited by the unalloyed service of his devotees. Wow, how about that? We may not be grateful, but Krishna is so grateful. The Lord feels grateful to his devotees for such, and I love this, unsophisticated, unconditional service. Prabhupada uses the word unsophisticated in such an interesting way, like it's a good thing, right? Usually in the world, we think, oh, I want to be very sophisticated. No, Srila Prabhupada directs us to be very simple. Unsophisticated, unconditional service. And Krishna tries to reciprocate it by rendering service, although the devotee also has no such desire in his heart. So I wanted to ask you all, what would you consider the opposite of this ecstatic, jubilant sense of wonder or gratitude? Adi Prusha has something nice in the chat. Let's see what he has to say. If one is sincerely trying to please Krishna, but is unsure of what to do, why doesn't Krishna just tell them beyond a doubt what they should do? Why make a devotee guess? Thanks, Adi. That's a really nice point. And you know what? That's a beautiful thing to aspire for. That's a beautiful intention to aspire for. I wish Krishna would just reveal to me in my own heart what I should do today. I think that's a beautiful prayer. Thank you so much, Adi. So I was just asking, what's the opposite of this ecstatic, jubilant sense of wonder? I would say pride or a sense of entitlement. Maybe you can think of more opposites also. That by my hard work or my brilliant endeavor, or Adi's making a garland right now, I'm going to make the greatest, most perfect garland that Krishna ever saw. And he's going to be so impressed. Not exactly, you know. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Chowpatty temple in Mumbai, but they make these most amazing garlands there that when you see them, you think they're made of silk, and they bought them at the market, but they're super amazing. And I heard a story from one of the ladies who makes those garlands that she was like admiring the garland that she just created, holding it up. And Radhanath Swami was in the temple room chanting japa, and he walked into the side room and he just said to her, you know, Krishna is the one who gives the intelligence how to make those garlands. So we shouldn't think that we're doing it just by our own artistic ability or by our own intelligence. And then he walked back into the temple to continue his japa. So whatever we're proud about, you know, maybe my sister Susan, maybe she might think, I'm a great acupuncturist. Everybody comes to me and I go down to Gainesville, Florida, and I teach acupuncture. No, we should be very humble no matter what gifts we have. Because pride or this entitlement is like a cancerous thought that can be very deadly to our bhakti, to our spiritual growth, and to our relationships as well. Because the fact is that everything I have has come as a gift. We came here empty-handed, we leave empty-handed, right? And then, as contrary to popular belief, nobody actually owes me anything, right? Nobody actually, my kids don't owe me anything. My husband doesn't owe me anything. My friends don't owe me anything. Everything is a gift. And this idea of gratefulness, said that gratefulness is a soil type of dirt in which pride does not easily grow. So if I'm feeling proud, I'm refusing to feel indebtedness to Krishna when I'm proud, that pride is like a block. It's like a prison. It's like a chain, right? Here's Vasudeva in prison, but he's not being chained or imprisoned by that prison or those chains. But if we become proud, then we go into the prison of our own mind and our own chains. But when I'm humble, I know that I don't really deserve the gifts and the care and the affection that I'm receiving every day, the water and the sun and the moon and all these gifts of Krishna and all the kindnesses I receive from the people in my life, you know. But sometimes we might think, well, right now I'm just plain suffering too much to feel any gratitude. The people in my life are disturbing me too much. The people at work are disturbing me too much. But you know, that's a really, really interesting point also, that even suffering can also teach us gratitude by pulling us deeper into realizing what's real and what's eternal and what's important in our true selves. So that's a very, very important point, I think, also. I want to share something from the poet Rumi that I love very much. He says, sorry from departing from the Vedic tradition, but personally, I think it all comes from the Vedic tradition. So I hope you like this. He says, sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps everything out of your house so that new joy can find space to enter. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up the rotten roots so that new roots hidden beneath have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take their place. What do you all think of that? I personally love that so much. But so often we can't see this in the moment when we're suffering. So it's important to pause, right? To pause, like have a red light, a yellow light, and pause, and then the red light, and stop and take a breath, pause, and pray to Krishna and ask him to help us see, how can I be grateful for whatever comes? Because everything is being sent by Krishna, both the joy and the sorrow and the suffering. And everything's coming into our lives to guide us to Krishna's shelter, to taking shelter of him. So we're seeing here this example of Vasudeva. There's no obstacle to expressing our gratitude, even if we're in a prison in chains, and we can express our gratitude with a sense of wonder like Vasudeva giving 10,000 cows. I wanted to tell you that once our godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, he was very good friends with Braj Bihari, who was here. And once the devotees were put in jail for some minor offense that they'd committed, that the people in Mumbai, the police at that time, were not too friendly. And the devotees were put in jail. And this wonderful, beautiful devotee, he's no longer with us, our godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, he was actually performing a Rath Yatra festival right in the jail. So just imagine, no boundaries. Or Yamuna Devi was in Bhaktivedanta Hospital in the last days of her life. And she was making beautiful, elaborate offerings to her dear deity Vana Bihari while she was in her mind, while she was in the hospital. And Chaitanya Charitamrita describes Nrsinga Nanda Brahmachari. You heard Lord Chaitanya was going to Vrindavan, And he immediately started constructing a beautiful jeweled road in his mind with so many lakes with pure water and birds chirping and so many fragrant flowers and water tasting like nectar. And then, get this, his mind was so absorbed in this meditation that at a certain point he couldn't create the road to go any further. And then he told the other devotees, no, Lord Chaitanya is not really going to go all the way to Vrindavan right now because I'm not able to create this road to go any further. So he's going to come back. And then sure enough, everybody cooked and Lord Chaitanya came back because of this prediction by this beautiful meditation in the mind. So in the purport to those verses, Srila Prabhupada says that the Lord accepts the sentiment of the devotee. For him, a path made of actual jewels or mental jewels is the same, because everything is the same in the service of the Lord, whether it's in gross matter or subtle matter, it's accepted equally by the Supreme Lord. The Lord accepts the attitude of his devotees, and he just sees how much the devotee wants to serve him. Even the poorest person can serve the Lord with pure devotion. So isn't that beautiful that devotional service can't be checked by any material condition? So yeah, I guess we just have a few more minutes. So in conclusion, Vasudeva was jubilant, struck with wonder. He's observing a festival right in this prison, and there's no obstacle to expressing our gratitude to Krishna in our minds each and every day, and experiencing also this sense of wonder. And then, just this meditation, where am I on this gratitude ladder? Can I practice more patience and appreciation and curiosity to see Krishna's plan unfolding in my life? Can I come to this place of a grateful heart? So when we grow in gratefulness, we grow in love. And without gratitude, love actually is impossible. So thank you all so much. Maybe I spoke too long, but are there any reflections or takeaways? Or what do you all have to share that's important for you here? And again, my apologies for preparing for the wrong verse, but sorry about that. I hope you found something.
No, it brings the sense of wonder. It's a wonder brought in by Krishna. And I personally feel it was exactly what I needed to hear, how you unpack gratitude in such a wonderful way. And I was very happy to see that the sense of humor is high up on the ladder. So that gives us hope, insensitive folks like me. So thank you very much for sharing this, Rukmini Devi.
Thank you. I always find.
Would anyone else like to reflect or ask a question?
Yes.
Take advantage. Akikuchan, take advantage of Rukmini Prabhu's association. Come on. All right. Okay, Akikuchan.
I always find Ananda Bihari to be very appreciative. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, I would like to share something, if that's okay, if I may.
Yes, who is that speaking?
It's Darshini from London. So I'm from all the way in the UK.
Thank you for joining all the way from London. Thank you for hopping across the pond. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. I've been trying to squeeze in one of your classes. Everything's quite hectic as always, but I really loved and really connected to what you shared about gratitude, because in this kind of because I have a full-time job and it's so difficult trying to juggle it all. And I come home and I wonder, it's so turbulent, and the only way I can actually kind of see some silver lining is to write a gratitude journal, is just to write a list, things I'm grateful for, even just having a home, having hot water, just the simple things. And it really, I don't know, kind of calms my mind. Actually, it's like what you were saying about how we kind of, when we have that gratitude, we stop thinking of our own, what I need, and we start thinking about more for what can we do for Krishna. And I just wanted to just say I was really grateful for that, and that's actually really just listening to your lectures actually reminding, reinforcing that new method, new habit I'm trying to implement. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your beautiful, grateful heart, which is heaven itself. So if we want some kind of heaven in our world, look to gratitude. Thank you for practicing that. Thank you for teaching us all. And teaching, because it's contagious, isn't it? When you try to practice it, it's so contagious.
Absolutely.
And other people pick up on it, other people who might have been irritating or annoying or depressing, they start to pick up on it too, And when you share it, it becomes doubled. Isn't that beautiful? That's spiritual.
Lovely. Yeah. I haven't developed the courage yet to share it because I get quite self-conscious that people think, what do you mean grateful? What are you grateful for? This world is miserable. And I'm like, especially at this time of the year, it's spring here in London and the flowers are beautiful. And it really kind of, I don't know, for me, it just lights up my day, lights up my daughter's day. So it's one of the small kind of, but you're right. Sharing it becomes more contagious. So I like that. I will try that actually. So thank you.
Pray to Krishna. Pray to Krishna to give you an intuition when you could share it. Yeah. At work.
Thank you.
At work, at home, everywhere. Thank you so much. What else? Thank you so much, Dayashini. What else? Anybody else have any thoughts?
Well, one thought just now occurred to me. Maybe we can be grateful for whenever we catch ourselves being grateful.
Wow, I love that, Gail. That's so beautiful. Thank you, Krishna, for reminding me to be grateful. And we can pray to Krishna, to help us remember to be grateful and to help us be reflective and keep our eyes open. There are things and thoughts and everything to be grateful for all around us, but we so often walk through like the blind man, right? The blind woman, like the robot.
Oh,
yes.
Can you just give the reference for where you said that serving Krishna internally is just as good as serving him externally, because it's all, the material energy.
Yeah. I was reading a little bit from the purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila. There's this that story that I quoted about I didn't put that in. It's in the Madhya Lila. It's in actually the first chapter, I believe, of the Madhya Lila. I didn't write the reference down, but if you look there, his name was Nishringananda Brahmachari, and he was also sometimes called Pradyumna Brahmachari. But Lord Chaitanya gave him the name Nishringananda Brahmachari. You can find that story. So in that purport, should I read that again? It's just
is that the sweet rice story? The one who was making
that sweet rice story is in the Nectar of Devotion. That's a great story that I was going to mention also, but because I ran out of time, I didn't. But that's a great story of that poor Brahmin who heard in a Bhagavatam class that you could serve Krishna even in your mind. And so in his mind, he was so poor, he didn't have any rice, he didn't have any milk, and he didn't have any sugar. And he went home and started meditating that he was cooking sweet rice. And then he touched the pot and it burnt his hand. And then Krishna was laughing. Talk about sense of humor, right? Lord Vishnu was laughing and brought him up to Vaikuntha. Lakshmi Devi asked Vishnu, why are you laughing? And he said, you'll see in a minute. And he brought this poor Brahmin right up to his own abode to Vaikuntha because of, he burnt his finger in his meditation. So that shows how real that the meditation is. Beautiful. Thank you, Gail. Anything else? Are we against the rules and over time now?
We're beyond the rules and regulations. We're a little over time, but it's okay. We can take one more reflection or question.
Okay. I see Henry smiling. Does anybody have any? Jai Henry, nice to see you. Does anybody have another thought before we go back within the rules?
Angel has a question in the chat.
Angel.
Prabhu Mataji, your class is always so sweet and offers nectar. Could you offer a few words on how to engage with someone who is very sour? For example, how can we interact sweetly with someone who is manic or mad or a depressed family member?
Thank you. That's a really important question, Angel. That's important for all of us. Well, first of all, try your best and pray to Krishna to find ways, sharing prasadam, sharing sweet things about Krishna. Maybe they're not able to hear about Krishna, But sharing prasadam is a wonderful way to sweeten up sour people. And, sharing something that inspires you. So I think sharing gratitude, sharing prasadam, sharing Krishna consciousness to anyone who'll hear. And for those sour and dour people, sometimes we just want to avoid intimate association with people like that. Sometimes if they're family members, we can't totally avoid, but you can avoid sharing your intimate thoughts with such people who just only want to bring you down. Like the Bible says, don't put your pearls before swine, right? So not that we would consider anyone a swine, even a pig is a sacred spirit soul, even a swine. But still, you don't reveal the jewels of your heart to someone who's sour and dour like that. Try to be giving and more than receiving from a person like that, right? Usually we think of reciprocation. How can I give? How can I receive? But when someone's very negative and then very sour and dour, I would say, try to give more than receive and distance yourself. Sometimes when they're going on and on with some kind of negativity, you can say, oh, I forgot, I have an appointment. I gotta go. Or, oops, really have to use the bathroom. Something like that, But I would say the real answer is don't share the intimacy of your heart with someone in that space, even if they are your family member. Is that helpful, Angel? I hope. Okay, thank you. You once told me, Angel says, you once told me not to put my head in the lion's mouth. This is still true. Yeah, we may respect a lion as a spirit soul, but we don't put our head in the lion's mouth, right? Thank you. Okay. Anything else before we try to go back into within the boundaries of our rules and regulations? That was the last one, Ananda Bihari, right?
Yeah. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
all so much. Thank you for
Beautiful
tolerating my
session.
speaking from the wrong verse today. Hare Krishna.
No, Rukmini Devi Prabhu, when Krishna is in the mix, when his sincere and realized devotees are in the mix, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. So thank you very much. And
thank you for your grateful heart. He's being contagious. So everybody try to catch the mood of Ananda Bihari. Catch it and put it in your heart.
Catch the letter. Catch the letter of gratitude. I hope you took a screenshot. I did. I'm going to get as high as I possibly can. I'm at the depressed, trying to stretch up.
I have it stuck on my fridge, so maybe you guys can also stick it on your fridge. And if you want it sent to you by email, Ananda Bihari can send it to you as well. Thank you for being here, Nancy. Just seeing you. Wow, so many friends. Thank you, all my dear friends, for being here.
Yeah.
And Kaylee.
Yeah, thank you very much, Krishna Drew, Michelle Berger. Thanks everyone for keeping your cameras on. This is a movement of radical personalism. There's no privacy. We know you can't have any privacy from Krishna. He's in your heart. Andrea, Henry Prabhu, giving us a big smile. Thanks everyone. Love you all. Hari Bol. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam has no end. Hare Krishna, Rukmini Devi Prabhu, bowing down to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Bowing down to you as well. Bowing down to all of you. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare